Hi everyone, it's Miss Lydia from the LaGrange Park Public Library. Thanks for joining me for Kids Kitchen today. Today we are going to be making some guacamole. We're actually going to make 3 different kinds of guacamole, kind of a sampler or a trio of guacamole if we were at a restaurant. Guacamole is one of my favorite foods. It's a great snack. It's great to have at a party. So I think this will be a really fun recipe to make together, and it's really easy to make. That's the best part about it. All right, well, we need a few ingredients to get started with our guacamole. So let's get started. All right, so to make our traditional base recipe of our guacamole, we are going to need 3 avocados, 1 lime, 1 tomato chopped up already. I like to use plum or Roma tomatoes because they're the right size, but you can use kind of what you have, about this much of that tomato. 1/2 cup of chopped red onion, and this can be really flexible because if you are like me and you don't really like onions, you can put less, or red onions are really pungent and they have a really strong flavor, so you can use a white onion if you prefer. That is a little bit more mild of a flavor, but today we're going to use 1/2 cup of a red onion. Then you're going to need 2 tablespoons of chopped cilantro, and try to get just the leaves. It comes on a lot of stems, but try to pick off and just get the leaves and chop those up, about 2 tablespoons. And then the last thing you'll need is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, just regular salt, whatever you have. All right, so those there are the ingredients that we'll need. The supplies that we'll need to make our guacamole are a bowl, and then you'll actually need, to make the rest of our guacamoles, we'll need 3 smaller bowls, because then we'll put our 3 types in our 3 bowls, but we'll start out with 1 big mixing bowl. And the other tools that you will need are a zester or a grater, a fork or a spoon, but I like to use a fork because you can mash up the avocado better. Some measuring utensils. I already have mine measured out, but you will need measuring utensils for when you are measuring your ingredients. And you will need a knife or a larger chef's knife like this one, which we're going to be really careful with, and a cutting board to protect our surface. So this recipe does have a lot of prep work in it and a lot of chopping, which I've already done to save time on our video here. But if you are using a knife, you might want to have an adult help you. And even if you feel comfortable using knives and chopping stuff up, you still want to do this with adult supervision, because even the best chefs can get cut when they're using big knives. So let's get started mixing our ingredients together. So we're going to start with our big bowl, and we are going to put our avocados into the bowl. Now I've already cut some of them that are ready to go, but I'll show you how to cut an avocado. That's the best way for guacamole. So what we're going to do is carefully take our knife, and this can be really tricky, so you might want to have an adult do it with you. You're going to get your knife into the avocado at the top and cut all the way around. Now I like to do this in my hand. I feel very comfortable doing this, and I know I'm not going to cut myself, but if you want to, you can do this on a cutting board. So then we have it cut all the way down the middle, and you just twist the avocado, your hand one way and the other hand going the other way, and it'll come apart. Look at that. That is a beautiful avocado, nice and green. So the way that I like to cut them up to get into the guacamole, you could just scoop the whole thing out and put it in your bowl, but I kind of like to pre-cut it into kind of a checkerboard. So again, if you are not comfortable doing this in your hand, we can put it on a cutting board. but I feel comfortable doing it in my hand. So cut long ways and short ways and make little squares, and I find it easier to get out and then easier to mash up. So then we're gonna use our fork or our spoon and scoop all those little squares out into our bowl, and the rind can get discarded. So I'm going to do that with all my other ones, and then I'll show you how to take the pit out of the avocado. So there's another half, and remember we have 3 avocados, so that is 6 halves. So we're on our 3rd one here. Getting out into our bowl. Our bowl is filling up with delicious avocado. Yum. It's looking good already. You might want to use a spoon when you're doing this. And I should have said this earlier, talking about avocados, you want to make sure that you have one that's ripe. Because if it's not ripe, it is going to be really hard and they taste like nothing. And if it's really hard, you're not going to be able to mash it up. Oops. And really it tastes like it has no flavor. And if it's overripe, that means it's going to be mushy, and avocados, when they're mushy, can taste really bad. So they have a very short window of when they are ripe, but you'll know it by holding an avocado and giving it a little squeeze. And if it is too hard and it feels like a baseball, that means it's not ripe, it's not ready yet. And if it just mushes under your hand, then that's overripe and it's not going to taste good. So you want something with just like a little bit of give in it, and then when you open it, it's going to be this beautiful green color. So mine's good. So let's get the pit out. So you can either just kind of pull it out with your hand, and there it is. And you might want to keep the pit, because that is a good way to keep your guacamole fresh if you don't finish it all. The pit, I don't know what it is about it, but if you put the pit in with guacamole that you are keeping in the fridge, it helps it to stay fresh for longer, because it can get brown like in a day. And that window of when it's ripe is pretty small. So we'll keep our pit. All right, so there we have all 3 of our avocados in our bowl, and our bowl is looking beautiful. Next, we will put in our ingredients that we already have cut up. So we have our 1/2 cup of red onion, and we'll dump that in there, and our small tomato chopped up, and we'll dump that in there. Next, we will add our 2 tablespoons of chopped cilantro. Get all of that. Fun fact, some people have a gene that makes cilantro taste like soap. So I hope that's not you when we are making our guacamole. And our 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we're gonna add our lime. So there's that. And next we're gonna add our lime. So actually I'm gonna bring this back. We're gonna use some of the lime zest. And the zest of citrus fruits, so it's like lemons, limes, grapefruits, oranges, has a more bold taste than the juice. So it's used often in baking and in cooking to give kind of a stronger flavor. So we're just gonna zest maybe 1/4 of the lime. If you really like the flavor, you can add more. If you don't like the flavor, you can skip this step. I'm gonna put a little bit more because I love lime. So there I have my zest. And now we are going to use our cutting board and our knife, and we are very carefully going to cut our lime in half. And we're gonna squeeze the whole thing into our bowl. So you can use a juicer if you want. I just kind of like to go for it. Woo. And of course, making a mess is always going to happen in my kitchen. All right, so there's my lime. And now we are going to mix it up. So while you're mixing, you want to make sure that you get the salt and the cilantro all mixed in. And then while you're mixing, you might want to mash some of the avocado a little bit. And this is totally up to you. Maybe you like really chunky guacamole and you don't want to mash it at all. Maybe you like it really smooth and you want to mash all of it up. And you could use like a potato masher or something and really mash it up and get it smooth. I kind of like it in the middle. So I'm just gonna try to see how much I can get it mashed up by mixing it together. I think this is looking really good. I'm gonna do just a little more mashing, so you could like hold it on the side and move your fork through it so it can mash it up. And then we'll mix that up in to the rest of the guacamole. All right, so mine is pretty chunky, but I think I like that today. I like it like that, and we're gonna mix in some other ingredients. So we're gonna mix in some other ingredients. So we want to keep it chunky, we can mix it more with our additions. So now what we're gonna do to make our trio of guacamole is we'll set out our 3 bowls. And we'll split our big bowl of guacamole into the 3. And here is the last one. Perfect. So one of them is already ready to go, our traditional guacamole, and we will set that one aside. That one's all ready to go. So the next one that we're gonna make, we're gonna add some ingredients to it. We are going to make some, I'll use this bowl. Well, we're gonna make some spicy pepper guacamole. So to make spicy pepper guacamole, we're gonna make our base guacamole, and then we're gonna add to our smaller bowl, we're gonna add 1/3 of a diced bell pepper. So you could use red or yellow or orange. I used orange here. And then 1/3 of a jalapeno, not 1/3 of a cup, but 1/3 of it, 1/3 of the pepper. And then we're gonna add that in, oops, dropped one, and mix that up. And that one is gonna have some nice crunchy peppers in it. So when you're cutting a jalapeno, that's something that you need to be really careful with, because jalapenos can get on your hands, and then if you rub your eye or something like that, it will stay on your hands and it will burn your eyes. So after you cut a jalapeno, you want to wash your hands immediately. If you're really sensitive to it, you might just want to wear gloves to prevent that from happening at all. And I like to take all of the seeds and the stems out of my jalapeno, because the seeds are what make it really spicy. And I like mine a little bit spicy, but not too spicy. So there is that, our spicy pepper guacamole, which is our regular guacamole with our peppers mixed in. And then our last one that we're going to make is kind of a funky one. We're going to use our regular guacamole, and we are going to add in 1/2 cup of chopped pineapple and 1/3 of a cut jalapeno. And then we are going to mix that one up. So this one, I know if you don't really like jalapenos, you might think like, I don't think I want jalapenos, but the jalapeno goes with the sweet pineapple and it balances each other out, and I think it's gonna be really good and really delicious. So there is that one mixed up. So that was a lot of chopping. That's how guacamole is. It's a lot of chopping, a lot of prep work, but then it's pretty easy to mix together. All right, so I'm just gonna clean up my space here a little bit, make it look nice. And then I forgot to mention the greatest ingredient of all, which is chips. Of course we need tortilla chips if we are eating guacamole. So here we have our 3 dips. We have our regular traditional guacamole, and then we have our spicy pepper guacamole, and then we have our sweet and spicy pineapple guacamole.